defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. Now I know a lot of you out there are saying, Justin, where the heck have you been, man? Jeez, it's been so dang long. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I am so late to getting this episode out. I was going to crank one out, and it's like, okay, let's wait for the Fed. Let's see what the news is on interest rates. And then things came up with work and farming, and man, it's been crazy. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm trying to catch up. I need to get some. You know what I really need to do? Try to get some interviews in, so that can get me caught up here. Then I'm not so dragging here. Like, it just sucks. But anyway, guys, you know the news. The Federal Reserve came out last week, and they announced that they raised interest rates for the second time in 2018 under Jerome Powell, the new Fed chair. And I have to say, I need to take something back. I think this was my episode back in March. I said, hey, look, guys, I think the Fed is only going to raise interest rates 2 times in 2018. I didn't think they were going to raise in June. I thought the next time they would raise rates would be in December. Now, I said this. Go back and listen to the episode. This is all based on politics. Like, I thought, okay, look, Donald Trump, he says he's a low interest rate guy. He likes low interest rates. And there's a history. Go back and look at it. Federal Reserve chairman and the presidents, they typically work together. But this move tells me a lot. And so, yeah, I have to say, I was wrong. I really didn't think they were going to do it. But this does tell us how confident the Fed is about the economy. Because before this move, this move is huge. Before this move in June, I wasn't sure where the Fed was at. Like, do they feel like, do they know that there's a big bust coming and they're just trying to avoid it as long as they can? Or do they just not know? They're clueless. Well, what just happened in this June meeting tells me that they're absolutely clueless. They have no idea. They don't see the crisis coming. They don't. If they thought that there was a big crisis coming, okay, it's like, yeah, let's just hold off. I mean, political reasons. But and this was even before I read, more quotes from Jerome Powell. Like, I was already thinking this prior to reading these things. And like Jerome Powell, he literally thinks, well, the economy is looking really good. It's really strong. So they don't see any bad news coming. And actually, what I want to refer to here on this episode of the Justin Moore Show is this article is addressing the idea of stagflation in the 1970s. And let me just start off reading it. The U.S. economy is not on the verge of repeating the outbreak of inflation last seen in the 1970s, despite the obvious parallel of tight labor markets, said Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell on Wednesday. This is June 20th, by the way. The labor market is now as strong as it has been in 50 years. In May, the U.S. unemployment rate fell to 3.8%, and forecasts say it may break levels not seen since the 1960s. Unemployment was below 4% from February 1966 through January 1970. During that time, inflation as measured by the price index for personal consumption expenditures increased from below 2% in 1965 to about 5% in 1970. Okay, so here we have a very low unemployment rate right now. It's at 3.8%. This is the lowest we've seen in decades. So a lot of people are really giddy about that, but obviously you and I were like, hey, the unemployment rate is actually higher than 3.8%. But still, I mean, we have to say, I can just tell, like here in Montana, if someone's looking for a job, they can find one. But we'll get more to what all this means a little bit later here in this podcast. But for right now, okay, the unemployment rate has gotten lower. Yes, that is true. So we'll give them that point. Continuing on from this article here. In a speech at a European Central Bank conference in Portugal, Powell said he didn't see the two periods as exactly comparable. So here's Powell talking about, the 1970s and stagflation to today. Are there parallels? Or do we see stagflation coming? And stagflation is this idea where you have, it completely discredited Keynesian economics at the time, where this idea, you have a high unemployment rate and high inflation at the same time. Keynesians never thought that was possible before. Then you ask, well, wait, Justin, wait, what? Why? I don't get it. Okay, well, the Keynesians' idea and what they thought of prior to the 1970s and stagflation is that they saw it was an inverse relationship between the unemployment rate and inflation. So it's like, think of it like a teeter-totter, right? That's inverse. So if you have a very low unemployment rate, then you could have a high inflation rate, or if you have a very low inflation rate, that means you'd have a high unemployment rate. So they work in inverse of each other. So now you ask, okay, well, Justin, I don't get how that all works together. Like, what's their mindset behind that? Okay, well, it's basically this. The idea that, okay, right now, okay, the times are good. The economy is growing. It's roaring. We have an unemployment rate of 3.8%. Oh, man, anyone who can get a job can basically get one. So, the Keynesian view is, okay, there's not much slack in the economy. More people have more money, which will increase demand for goods. So when there's an increased demand for goods, that pushes up the price of goods. And as the prices of goods rise, then businesses are looking at this. Okay, we got more profits coming in because we have more demand for our products. Okay, we need to hire more people. So that's the Keynesian idea of how a growing economy, what it looks like. So it's all about demand. Now, let's look at this the other way. We're still looking at it from the Keynesian perspective. Let's say the economy slumps. So now you have unemployment starting to tick up. So as the unemployment rate is ticking up, as more people are losing their jobs, the inflation rate is coming down because now there's less demand for goods and services because these people now don't have jobs. That's why there was Nancy Pelosi that came out and she's saying, well, the best stimulus is to, have more food stamps and all that. Because it's this Keynesian idea that if you just get people to spend money, you get demand for goods and services, then everything else will be fine. Because more demand means higher wages, people have more money to spend. When people have more money to spend, that creates more jobs because businesses hire more because of the higher demand. It's this is a completely ludicrous idea, but this is how they think of the economy. And it's all about demand. But as I've talked about for years on this podcast now, that no, it's not about demand at all. It's all about production. And in order for you to consume, in order for you to demand something, yeah, you can demand all the Lamborghinis you want. But if you aren't producing enough goods and services to afford a Lamborghini, you ain't getting that Lamborghini, okay? So you must produce first. You want to have a more lavish lifestyle? Then you better figure out a way to produce more. Just working a little 9-to-5 job, doing what everybody else does. I mean, okay, I have to say this. I'm saying this is kind of a way that sounds like it's bad that you're doing that. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm just saying, if you think you want to live a lifestyle well above than, say, your average person out there that works a 9-to-5 job, you just show up, you punch in, you punch out. If you just see your life as being that person, you're not going to be the guy driving the Lamborghini. It's those people that have those extremely high standard of living is because they're able to help a lot more people than you are at your 9-to-5. Your 9-to-5 job, you're a little tiny cog in a wheel. Sure, things do happen because of you, but the more people you can help, so if you create some sort of good or some sort of product or service, that is so outside of every other business's radar. Like they didn't see it coming. Like you are this tiny little niche. People need you. And especially with the internet, you can bring all these people in. I mean, so the potential there to live a life beyond your wildest dreams with the internet is possible. And it's easier than ever before. But here people still bitch, complain, moan about their life when you can change it at any time. But yeah, it does. It's all about, how can you provide more? And that has to be your mindset. I mean, that's how I think about it for me personally too. There's some people out there, oh yeah, I just want to make money. I want to make more money. But how about you just change your mindset and just think, how can I do something that's going to help people? And while you're helping people, hey, you make money at it at the same time. When people are paying you for something, a service you're providing or a good, that means you're making their life better off. They're deciding in their head, this service is more valuable to me than the money in my pocket. They're making that exchange voluntarily. Nobody is forcing them. And that is powerful. And so if you can figure out how to help a massive number of people, you're going to be very, very wealthy. And so this idea of the unemployment rate. So I guess to really bring this back to earth, here I am talking about Keynesian economics and the inverse relationship and talking about the Phillips curve and how it doesn't work and it was discredited in the 1970s because we got stagflation, because that inverse relationship between unemployment and inflation doesn't exist at all. So then you ask, well, Justin, okay, so if the Keynesians have it completely wrong, then how do things work? Well, from my perspective, and what I've learned, just through reading a lot of books and trying to understand all this stuff, I think the Austrians have come the closest to the best understanding of how things really work. And it's the Austrian view of the business cycle. Okay, why do we have booms and busts? It's because of the Federal Reserve getting involved, artificially lowering interest rates, having government providing stimulus and all this easy money. What does that do? These low interest rates encourage people to spend as opposed to save. And so here we have a bunch of businesses thinking, okay, well, wow, I can invest in, increase the size of my factory, and this is going to make me more profitable because, if you see a low interest rate, that's implying that there's a lot of savings out there. In a free market, that is what a low interest rate means. Because if you want to encourage people to save, then the interest rate must be higher. But when the interest rate's low, it's like, holy crap, we have a lot of savings in this economy. Let's get some people to invest, to increase production, to make us more productive. We have way too much savings. And so things all kind of equal out in the free market. But when the Federal Reserve sets this policy, sets the interest rate willy-nilly, like the Federal Reserve does today, that really screws things up. The Federal Reserve, these kingmakers, these guys think they know what the exact interest rate should be. So here's Jerome Powell. He came in. Yep, we need to raise interest rates. Interest rates went up another 0.25%. So now it's at the range between 1.75% and 2%. This is the highest it's been in a very long time. This is the seventh rate hike, in 10 years. They just started raising interest rates in 2015 under Janet Yellen. So here's Jerome Powell's second interest rate increase. And he's even talking about two more. So there could be one in September and one in December. But yeah, there's definitely been a shift under Powell. He is very confident about the economy. And actually here, let me scroll down in this piece here. He even mentions, actually no, wait, before I get to that. Yesterday when Jerome Powell was in Portugal, unfortunately, with the passage of a half a century and important changes in the structure of our economy and in central bank practices, in my view, the historical comparison does not shed as much light as we might have hoped, Powell said. So here he is talking about the people making the comparison between now and the stagflation in the 1970s. So he doesn't really see it. Hey, we haven't really learned all that much in the last 50 years. And look, the economy, the structure of it has changed. So he's basically not really providing an answer to, and I think people at the Fed now, and even Keynesians today, they're still kind of boggled by the idea of stagflation. They still don't really have a concise answer on that. And just continuing on with what Powell has said here at this conference in Portugal, one difference is that inflation has been low and stable for an extended period, which has better anchored inflation expectations, the Fed chairman said. Okay, so he's saying, hey, look, we've had a really stable policy here of low inflation for a very long time. You're looking at 10 years and 10 years of really low interest rates and really low inflation. So he's basically thinking, this time is different. It's completely different than it was in the 1970s. In the 1970s, during the stagflation, You had double-digit unemployment, and at the same time, you had double-digit inflation. You had inflation rates going as high as about 13%. Okay? Now, obviously, any of this type of inflation we're talking about here is not anywhere near where it's at in Venezuela right now. But people like Powell, they think this can't come to the United States. And they really think that the Federal Reserve has it figured out, that there's nothing to fear. Like, they're really arrogant about this. Okay, continuing on with this piece. Some Fed officials see similarities. Former Richmond Fed President Jeffrey Lacker, for instance, was fond of warning that there were striking parallels between this economic expansion and the mid-1960s. There are no signs that the public has begun to question the Fed's commitment to low inflation or that inflation expectations have come under upward pressure, Powell said. Now, what I just read right there, what is that? One sentence from Powell. This is very important. This is really telling you a lot about where he's coming from. Let me read that part again. This is from the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Quote, "There are no signs that the public has begun to question the Fed's commitment to low inflation or that inflation expectations have come under upward pressure." Okay, here he is admitting this is all working well as long as people don't question the Fed's commitment to low inflation. What have I been saying on this podcast for a very long time? That this game can keep going as long as people don't fear inflation is coming. That's why this has always been kind of like a mind game, and it's about the psychology of it. Hey, no, there's nothing to worry about. No, we're not going to print more money. By ending the QEs, it's making it seem like the Federal Reserve is responsible, that they are in control this entire time. That has been the key. They have to feel like, and it has to appear like the Fed is in control of the economy. And that's certainly what it looks like today, right? The Federal Reserve is raising interest rates. Things are still under control. So the Fed has to remain in control, or at least appear that it is. But that's why this crisis is coming. I mean, it's the arrogance of these guys at the Fed that they think they can keep this going. The average guy out there is a retard, like they don't understand anything. But I go back to one of my episodes I did, a few years ago now, where there's a lady who wrote this journal. She lived through the hyperinflation in Weimar Republic in Germany. She said, hey, in the beginning, nobody knew what inflation was. But in 2 weeks, everybody became an expert on inflation. People figure it out. When people realize their very livelihood is at stake and is being threatened, people figure it out. I mean, a lot of these entrepreneurs you hear about, these rags to riches stories, a lot of these guys who go on to be multi-millionaires and billionaires, these are people who grew up in some horrid conditions. You're like, oh my gosh, like this guy never had a chance. There's no level playing field. This guy was an underdog, but this man or woman achieved it regardless. But see, that's when people, when your back is up against the wall as an entrepreneur, it's like, crap, I got to be able to pay rent. I don't want to be on the streets. I got to provide for my family. I got to, this and that. People have so many reasons why they want to push themselves. What motivates people? It's different from person to person. But those people, when you're in those sort of situations, or just a survival situation, when you're just trying to survive, your mindset completely changes. You either figure it out or you die. You either figure it out or your family dies. When you're in that predicament, losing is not an option. You will do anything necessary. You must win. You will win. That's the mindset. That is how people win. That is how people become successful. Not like, oh yeah, I might do this and that. Yeah, maybe I'll go back to school, do some things. No, these people are committed to winning. They don't just think about it and like, yeah, winning sounds nice. Maybe I'll just, I'll just try to win a little bit. No, they will win. So it is interesting just trying to conquer the brain and understand the brain is so powerful. If you can try to master it, you can literally do anything you want with your life. Well, almost. So anyway, guys, I've really been all over the place with this episode. Basically we're just talking about the Federal Reserve and raising interest rates. But there's so much to this that the average person is not even following what's going on. Most people, what the Federal Reserve raising interest rates? No, they don't care. They're just looking at their credit card bills. Oh my gosh, my interest rate went up. Oh no. But of course, those people worrying about, the people who pay the minimum on their credit cards, those are not the same people who are worried, who are looking at, oh wow, I'm making a little bit more in my savings. No. If you're paying your minimums on your credit card, you're paying about 22% interest rate. The savings rate, what you make in your savings account is nothing. 22% interest rate, that is insane for anyone to pay. If that's what you're doing, you need to somehow figure out how to stop spending so much. You need to live within your means. Because the best investor of all time, Warren Buffett, what is he? He's averaged over, I don't know how many years in his career. He makes about 20% a year. The best investor of all time makes about 20% a year. And here you're spending 22% in interest? That's what a loser does. Don't do it. Don't become a victim. You can do it. But anyway, guys, I'm trying to think, I guess to really just conclude this and just wrap this up here. We don't need to really get this thing too damn long. Jerome Powell, this has been a game changer. June 2018. Jerome Powell raising interest rates. The FOMC statement was shorter. They no longer mention interest rates will go up as, the economy warrants. No, they sound a lot more bullish. The Federal Reserve has completely changed its tune. This has been the first change in years. That's part of the reason how with my forecast, I was really thinking, okay, the Federal Reserve, I wasn't sure, like I said, if the Federal Reserve thought, okay, there's a crisis coming, we just got to figure out how to mitigate this thing. No. They really think the economy's strong. We're out of the woods. Everything that the Federal Reserve has done since 2008, the Band-Aids that they provided for our economy, right now under Jerome Powell, a Republican, appointed by a Republican president, which apparently, Republicans are supposed to be like free market and stuff. No. But anyway, Jerome Powell, under his Fed, they see the economy, it's doing fantastic. Here's a quote from Jerome Powell right here. The case for continued gradual increases in the federal funds rate is strong. And he goes on to say, today I see U.S. financial stability vulnerabilities as moderate and broadly in line with their long-run averages, he said. So he says he sees no strong headwinds or anything for the economy. Everything is looking great. Let me just wrap it up with this right here. It was under Ben Bernanke when he sounded the most cocky about the economy. It's like, no, we got nothing to worry about. It's all good. He was talking like this in 2006. This is at the height of the housing market, right before everything came collapsing down. So the question is, at this point, as the Fed is getting more cocky about raising interest rates, those raising of interest rates, that's what pricked the housing bubble. So here's a cocky Fed yet again, getting giddy, which, raising rates is the right thing, but they're doing everything for the wrong reasons. They really think things are strong. They think these Band-Aids that I'm talking about, they're really not Band-Aids, that the economy's great. The economy is strong, fundamentally. And that is a big problem, because this bubble is going to pop, and it's going to be much worse than whatever happened in 2008. So if you were caught in what happened in 2008, you lost a lot of money. I hope you've learned, and I hope you prosper from what's to come. And on my show here, I plan on helping you guys out, doing what I can to inform you so you can make the best decisions as this economy, as this collapse unfolds. Which I know, you just heard me say, collapse. If you're a new listener to this show, you're like, Justin, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah, the economy's strong, 3.8% unemployment rate. Man, everything's great. Make America great again. No, we have some very, very strong headwinds that the Federal Reserve doesn't see coming, and that has been obvious from them just raising interest rates and their latest FOMC statement released in June of 2018. So I will keep you guys updated on that. I'm wrapping it up there. I thank you guys for listening. You can catch up on all episodes of the Justin Moore Show. Just go to justinmoreshow.com. Moore is spelled M-O-H-R. All my latest episodes are there. You can click on my Amazon link there. I get a small commission back on anything you buy, and it's a way of helping out the show, and it costs you nothing extra. Or join Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom. That's a great way to help out the show. It makes you a smarter person, like U.S. history or the history of political thought or economic thought. Talking about Adam Smith and, oh my gosh, there's so much information on Tom Wood's Liberty Classrooms. I encourage you to do that. I am definitely a member, and I've been a member for years now. You can also, if you just click on the PayPal link right there on the website, you can donate to my show directly. Donate over $50 to my show. I give you all my bonus episodes telling you how to save a lot of money in Vegas. I want to try to lay out, and I've been traveling the world here lately. I'll be able to help anyone else who wants to travel the world, and how much you learn from traveling the world. Oh my gosh, it is worth it. But I'm gonna point out, I will release new episodes, how you can save a boatload of money. So donating that $50, you're easily getting that money back with all the money I will be saving you with my tips. So anyway, guys, I thank you so much for listening. I'll talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.